Greetings. My name is William Smith, and I assumed the leadership role in my NJ Play Sports Basketball League hosted by the Waynes Police Athletic Department. Following this, my partner Brian and I shadowed and debriefed Judith Kirshner, who is a VP of Scent Technology and Innovation at International Flavors and Fragrances. Our team has performed in over 9+ hours for this project. Speaking and debriefing Judy was one of the most insightful experiences of this entire project. We delved into real-world applications of chapter concepts such as leader effectiveness, cognitive factors, and meaningful work, and how these intricacies applied or transitioned into organizational politics, and while also leveraging my knowledge of the StrengthsFinder assessment and how I could use them through first-hand experience. On the other hand, the leadership activity helped me to polish my own leadership skills such as tenacity and resilience, which were vital qualities in my team's success to the championship run we had. During my time with Team Loyalty, I assumed the role of a pace-setting and coaching style of leader. Sometimes I adopted an authoritative style when I felt they were being a little more uncooperative, but more or less I advocated for substitutes for leadership style or concept where I applied their own intrinsic motivation and had it work for us. Some were more motivated in playing time, some were more motivated by scoring. So just trying to manipulate and play chess with all these different pieces was an essential part of my leadership activities. These concepts were crucial in fulfilling both the coach and motivator role, the strategy developer role, and also just executing our leadership plans and strategies. This also assisted me in performing my responsibilities such as assigning player roles, designating playing time, composing game plans, practices, strategy, team building, and scheduling. Tinkering with all these things was a meticulous process. There was a lot of conflict in the beginning, but it mellowed out near the end when we started to gain momentum. This proved helpful in numerous challenges that arose during the championship run. This furthered my understanding of expectancy theory, in which people would act a certain way to get a desired result, or instrumentality theory, where people would perform a certain way perhaps because they believed they would get more playing time, when this was a paid league, so everybody has to get like a minimum amount of time. So just because you're performing well doesn't necessarily mean you get to play longer. But thankfully a lot of us wanted to just win, so some did take the sacrifice, bit the bullet and took the hit. But there was a lot of challenges that required my problem-solving ability. This also assisted me in performing my responsibilities such as assigning player roles, designating playing time, composing game plans, practices, strategy, team building, and scheduling. Tinkering with all these things was a meticulous process. There was a lot of conflict in the beginning, but it mellowed out near the end when we started to gain momentum. This proved helpful in numerous challenges that arose during the championship. Ultimately, despite our rough start, initially we did win a lot of games, but then we fell off and started to lose a couple games to the point that we felt we weren't going to make the playoffs. But team building exercises and then going out to eat and discuss our problems and communicate and rewatch film and discuss the issues, we were able to win a lot of games, go on like a 5-game win streak, which allowed us to build the momentum to just beat every team in the playoffs. By the time we got to the championship run, it just felt like we were unstoppable, and I'm happy to be a part of that. Moving on to leadership observed and debriefed, we chose Judy Kirshner because we felt she could offer us the opportunity to observe more executive levels of leadership in person, which means, she started off as a chemist, and as a chemist, you're more in the lab, but she was able to assimilate skills that enabled her to work her way up to these executive levels of leadership, where she's doing less of the chemistry stuff and more of the managing stuff. So it was interesting to see how that works, because they're two different, fields of practice. So seeing just how she built herself and her portfolio of skills was interesting. As she progressed through the corporate ladder, she became less involved with the actual lab work and the more practical aspects of being a chemist, and more into business functions. So in this case, it's managing people and project management, program management, directing people, and just trying to find ways to facilitate innovation, which is heavily intertwined with motivation and also creativity and other abstract concepts. So most of her day in the office was more just meetings. Brian and I would meet, and Brian and I were watching her meet with all these different people, clientele, team members. She had about 5 members under her directly, and then under them they had about 30 each. And then when her meetings were finished, what we would do is we would discuss a motley of things, from business concepts, chapter concepts, and how we can apply and become better leaders, and then also some more philosophical stuff. In my personal experience, we were talking about progression and how, as long as people progress, that's all that really matters. How do you put people in the position to do so? How do you position them to pivot their careers into a different direction if it means progressing? Also, conflict resolution. She told me a story of a man who was very condescending to others, feeling a sense of superiority in his position. So she had to make him aware of it, and thankfully he was willing to acknowledge that he had this problem, and they were able to, I don't want to say fix him, but at least mend the behavior. So meetings was mostly our experience with Judy in the office. We were able to observe different interactions, and then in between them discuss questions or ask questions that we felt were worth discussing. And then we decided to do another follow-up on Friday to ask any remaining questions. And overall, I'm very happy I was able to shadow her, and I have her contact info if I ever have any more questions. So that's good to have another contact in my network. To conclude, I walk away with an enhanced understanding of what it means to be a dynamic and multifaceted leader. I learned more about what are my leadership strengths in comparison to hers, but also we were talking about how we don't really like to compare. Use my experiences in shadowing and the leadership activity to sharpen my skills. Coincidentally, working on my weakest link provided me the best method of progression. So in this case, through applying it through the leadership lab, despite uncertainties, my team loyalty was able to win. There was things such as chapter concepts such as achievement motivation, which was utilized in my team who wanted the championship award, the trophy. Furthermore, I have confirmed to myself how valuable experience of flow and meaningful work is to my leadership goals and entrepreneurial endeavors. The experience allowed me to identify and progress my leadership styles and capabilities, and by doing so, just taught me more about the intersectionality of leadership. To sum up, that was my experience with the Leadership Lab. Thank you for listening to it. I apologize in advance for any lackluster energy and for the mask. I'm still quarantining. I still don't feel well. but I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to complete it nonetheless. And I hope I was able to convey the messages that you were looking for. And thanks again.